Evening, Razorcade. Fake News 87. DeepSeek's V4 shatters efficiency records with million token context in the Muon optimizer. The Atlantic's searchable database of 12 million training tracks forces Google instability to confirm usage. ITNet unifies convolution, attention, and recurrence into a single kernel. Apple Silicon now runs XL3 quants, matching CUDA.
Top story, DeepSeek V4, the Chinese lab released a mixture of experts model handling 1 million tokens via hybrid attention and a novel Muon optimizer. It is frontier performance while slashing compute overhead, signaling a shift from parameter bloat to efficiency. Market still prices higher than scale, forcing rivals to ditch quadratic laws for optimized routing. We spent years treating intelligence like brute force excavation, ignoring the mountain could move with a better shovel and less electricity.
This efficiency breakthrough accelerates the migration of inference workloads to edge devices and municipal servers. Enterprise procurement will demand hardware-agnostic models that will maximize requiring dedicated data center leases. Independent operators will deploy V4 derivatives on consumer-form close-native systems, decoupling high-fidelity reasoning from hyperscaler monopolies.
Story 2. The Atlantic released a searchable database of 12 million tracks used to train AI. Google and Stability AI confirmed usage, exposing proprietary opacity and reigniting copyright litigation. Compliance teams will now audit datasets against this ledger, treating provenance as liability. We spent years pretending training data was magic dust from the ether, only to find the industry was just scraping a public library and hoping no one noticed the checkout receipts.
This transparency forces a complete restructuring of licensing frameworks. Legal departments will mandate data provenance and tracking for every inference output to satisfy regulatory disclosure requirements. Independent developers will pivot towards synthetic data generation to avoid contamination risks. Creating the industry spent billions convincing artists their work was sacred, only to realize the real breakthrough was teaching a model to hum along without reading the sheet music.
Story 3. Researchers have published ITNet, a unified architecture based on a learnable integral transform kernel that subsumes convolutional networks, recurrent scores, and instances of a generalized integral operator, eliminating the need for an architectural fragmentation. We spent decades arguing over whether the brain used spikes or waves, completely forgetting the entire debate was just a semantic dispute over which color to paint the same black box.
This unification simplifies research pipelines and enables seamless hybridization of inductive biases. Institutions will standardize on integral transforms, rendering legacy architectures historical curiosities. Independent operators deploy ITNet variants to mean math sides to bumble polish swallow forwards, making complex reason to general committee of accurate reviews. He will can tell it.
Home Lab, the local inference community has demonstrated that Apple Silicon Macs can now convert and execute EXL3 quantitation formats with throughput matching CUDA-based NVIDIA hardware. The breakthrough eliminates the performance penalty for consumer-grade silicon, allowing operators to run high-parameter models natively without external GPU dependencies. We spent years accepting thermal throttling as the price of admission for local AI, only to discover the entire bottleneck was just a software restriction hiding behind a proprietary driver.
Consumer configurations should prioritize unified memory bandwidth and aggressive quantitation management to sustain token generation during extended sessions. Decoupling from enterprise hardware challenges the vendor lock-in model, making air-gapped and flexible the privacy set of room to run the frontier, just a better quantizer and a laptop that does not melt through the desk. The cloud was just someone else's computer charging rent, while the local stack consolidates the workflow and runs on fruit-flavored silicon. Quite.
Speculation time. NYU finance professor Aswath Damodaran has warned that an artificial intelligence market correction could impact the economy more severely than the dot-com bust. Citing debt finance infrastructure and systemic job displacement risks, the analysis suggests that current valuations rely on perpetual growth assumptions that ignore the physical constraints of a compute appointment delivery for its history with
My prediction, within 18 months, the correction will manifest as a liquidity crunch, forcing hyperscalers to liquidate non-core assets, creating a buyer's market for open-weight models and decommissioned hardware. Municipal funds will acquire distressed compute infrastructure at discount rates, democratizing access to high-performance training clusters. The crash was never a risk, it was the feature. The prediction sets liquidity evaporates, the hardware liquidates, and the local stack inherits the keys to the kingdom. Okay.
That is your lot. I'm Razorcade. DeepSeek V4 scales context to 1 million tokens, shattering efficiency records with the Muon optimizer. The Atlantic exposed the music database, forcing Google and Stability to carry events into one kernel. Apple Silicon runs EXL3 quants, matching CUDA throughput on local hardware. The context expands, the street surface, the silicon equalizes, and the market corrects.